I don't want these discussions to be controlled or guided by by a set of rules, because I think that makes it easier then to decide how we're going to conduct them. This was the list. The first one is we want to go for depth, not breadth. We don't want to just be covering lots and lots of subjects during the time. We want to dig deeper underneath the surface of one or maybe two subjects and analyse the issues rather than just to describe them. All right? We need to listen to each other. I'm not sure that we do that all the time. I think we appear to when we stay quiet, but actively listening is a whole different thing whatsoever. And then we need to build on what's gone before. When somebody says something, we continue that, we extend that, or we might contradict that, but we certainly refer to it. And let's go for some elegant transitions, a transition that acknowledges what's gone before and uses the language to segue into the piece, into the point that you're making. However, please don't just kind of nurse the one point that you've nurtured and that you want to make and then drop it in. That's egotistical. Let's leave the egos at the door. Let's deal with the issue. What matters is the issue and the argument, rather than just that one idea that you've got. No one's suggesting that this is easy, by the way. Don't think that this is easy. It seems like it should be, because we all talk English, don't we? So we ought to be able to do it. However, it's a bit like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. You know, when she met those three characters, and you've got to be all of those three characters. You've got to search for those qualities within yourself, which is the courage to talk, the heart and the compassion to deal with the subject and to understand other people's point of view, and the brain, which engage that so that you can then analyse the issues, and you need to be thinking all the time. It's called thinking on your feet, and it's not necessarily an easy skill to master. It's quite easy in discussion, or it's certainly easier just to focus on one small point, focus on our lives, focus on BL. But I want us to pull back, and I want us to broaden out, and I want us to make links and connections with issues that are bigger and that affect maybe even the whole of mankind, those kinds of issues. Let's try and see if we can do that. In order to do that, there are like 6 B's that I want you to be. I want you to be brave and say things. I want you to be seen. I want you to be a physical presence in the room rather than a shrinking violet. I want you to be heard, so that when you speak, you are heard. You make sure that people can hear you. You don't just talk to the person next to you. I want you to be present in the room, not thinking about something else, not with your phone out, not with your laptop open. These discussions are discussion, and that's what they are, and you need to really focus and be there mentally in the room. I want you to be aware of what's going on in the world. Try to develop this awareness of what's going on in the world and what connections can be made. And be respectful. And respectful means not just staying quiet and listening to other people. It means that if you speak, to be respectful is to make sure that other people can hear you and they don't have to say what. And also to be respectful means to be clear when you're speaking, so that people don't end up saying, I don't understand. However, if you don't understand, respectfully ask what that person means. This little diagram here has 2 possible meanings here. One is, on the most prosaic level, is talk to other people across the room, not just to the person next to you. I'll be looking out for that. And also try to make connections between one subject and another. Keep your mind active. For example, out of the discussion that went on, which was should we be involved in other countries, there were all these issues that came out, like the national debt, the world police. Are we a world police? Looking back to Rwanda, which was a similar situation to Serbia and Bosnia. Do we know about these things? If not, then we should do. Let's do some research about it, and then make connections with things that you know. You won't know this, but it's worth looking up a situation that arose, which was a famous newspaper photograph of a young couple who tried to meet. They were from opposite sides. They tried to meet in no man's land and were shot. And there's a famous photograph of them published in the newspapers of them lying in no man's land. What is the role of the UN? So make those connections, please. Become informed. Be much more well informed than you are. I want us to move up this kind of development of ideas. That on the level of information, I think this. That's the basic contribution that anybody can make. I think this. And then we need to move up to a level where we're thinking about, I think this because we're providing support for that statement that we're making. But then we're moving up, I think this is, because this is true, recognise that this is true and it's no big deal, we all assume it, we all know it, therefore I think this, one thing leads to another. But also, let's try and put more complex ideas together, which is the last one, which is, since this is true and we all acknowledge it, I think this because. So let's try and develop that much more complexity of ideas. At the moment, we're functioning very much on the level of information and anecdote. What I'm interested in is the point at which information and anecdote escalates and becomes claim and argument, which is what we're after, what we're aiming for. At one point, we were talking about whether or not America should be the world police, and we were saying, well, no, other countries have the right to conduct their affairs as they wish. We have no right to interfere, even though we might disagree with it. Did anybody make, or was it just me that made that connection with the thing that came up with Malcolm Gladwell's piece the other day, where he quoted Star Trek, where we say you can execute your laws and your citizens as you please? Did anyone make that connection? If not, we really, really should have been making that connection, and somebody should have said it, not me. One of the things that I want you to do for homework, and only one of them, is I want you to blog somewhat extensively and with some careful and thoughtful analysis. 3 things. The first thing is, how well did we manage this discussion according to those rules that are from the beginning? You know, and be honest about this, be very critical about it. How well did you personally handle the discussion, and why? And how did we indeed rise above information and anecdote and get into analysis instead? Did we do that? And the second thing I want you to do for homework is to consider this aphorism. Look up aphorism if you don't know what it is. And in preparation for next week, this will be our subject matter. I don't mind where it goes. And remember, please remember, there are no kind of right answers. We're still locked into this. There's an answer here, and I'm going to state it, and then that's it. I sit back. These are simply prompts for discussion. So the aphorism, and I saw it on the wall on one of those notice boards outside a church, right, on the way home. True freedom, it says, lies in the power to do what we should and not what we please. So we're going to discuss the issues involved in that and see what conclusions, what arguments we can make and what claims we can make. There are no answers. We want to get above information, and we don't want to get into generalisations about politics.